y'all. So the cat's out the bag. I've been studying this type of thing for years, but you can't really talk about it because people will think that you're crazy. So now we know Satanists and Luciferians run the world. 2 Corinthians, it describes that Satan is the god of this world. They own the government, politics, Democrats and Republicans, the court system, the education system, the banks, the Federal Reserve, real estate, farms, Hollywood, what we watch, music, what we listen to, media, what we believe, sports, big pharma, everything. We pay their taxes, we work their jobs, we buy their houses. We don't own anything really, because even if we paid for a house outright, if we miss paying taxes one time, they can take the home. We've been pitted against each other like crazy forever. Black versus white, rich versus poor, men versus women, Democrats versus Republicans, Muslims against Christians. We fight over narratives that they've created to keep us divided while they're doing whatever they want. Hunting, killing, sexually assaulting, sacrificing, torturing, cannibalizing, yes, cannibalizing, and organ harvesting our children. Grooming them and over-sexualizing them, teaching them inappropriate things in school. They start wars and they tell us it's this country or that country, or it's this religion who's our enemy. And our kids go to war to defend lies. They fund both sides of the war and make billions of dollars while our family members are sacrificed. We have been bamboozled beyond our wildest dreams. Everything we've been fed is a lie. So what do? If you're like me, like, okay, we got the information, but what do? We can't impeach the president because that's up to Congress. The only power we have is our dollars, our prayers, and our voices. Some people will laugh at that, but when it comes to their God, they're on their job. They pray to their God, they worship him, they murder, assault children, make blood sacrifices. They are very dedicated to making sure their God is pleased with them. We can stop feeding the beast with our dollars. When things are exposed, we can stop giving them our money. I'm not telling you who you should buy from or where to spend your money, but I do encourage you to investigate the companies you patronize. Find out who they are, what their practices are, what their beliefs are. I know we love certain brands, but do we know their history? Who owns your bank? Is there another place that you can put your money? Because if they decide, they can close the banks whenever they want, or they can freeze our accounts if we don't comply with their narrative. They're purposely poisoning our water, air, and food. So support your local farmers if you have access. I know everyone doesn't have access. I understand that. Buy fresh, real food. Buy land if you can. Grow food if that's in your heart. Even this information we've been exposed to, I think it's designed to see what we will do. This information can make us feel helpless and depressed and even more complacent, giving them even more control to usher in their new world order, their one world government, one currency, one world dictatorship where we have no rights at all. So we can refuse digital ID, we can support smaller venues, we can spread and share information. If we can homeschool our children. Support local farmers. It's healthier, it's cleaner. Get back to eating whole foods. If you can, try and go direct to consumer. And according to Revelation, yes, we are being led to a choice, right? It talks about the mark of the beast in Revelation 13:16 through 17. You can read it for yourself, but that's basically where this is all headed, and it's unfolding right in front of us. There'll be a time that we won't be able to buy or sell unless we take the mark. Can you imagine one world government, one religion, one currency, total dictatorship, total control? Let's do what we can. Spread information, and God bless you guys.
Ashar Shabbath Shalom. Call Halayim Le Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakaha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the Tabernacle of David, beginning with the 144,000 and the rest of the men, women, and children out of the 12 tribes whom Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai will ultimately have mercy upon in these last days. I'm your brother Matazabath, residing from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Melbourne, Australia. All right. And as you just saw in the beginning of the lesson, the video with, I think her name is Cheryl from SALT-N-PEPA rap group. All right. And pretty much she goes into telling about the secrets of the elites and what they have been doing for a very long time now, which is nothing new because beginning with the apostles and bishops and elders, mainly from the Great Millstone, they have been telling you this, all right, through prophecies of, what the elites are really about. And basically what stood out to me is the fact that she mentioned about the MOTB, all right, which she didn't, clearly say what it was, but she understands that everything that they have been doing thus far up until this point in time is all leading to the MOTB, which we would not be able to buy or sell. All right. So, her mindset is one where she understands what the overall goal is, as we've been telling you through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, and we've been bringing it out and giving you these digital epistles. All right. So although she laid it out, plain as day through her testimony, I'm just going to take you through the article real quickly. All right. And we're just going to cover just a few things I want to touch on that she said that stood out to me. All right. Get a few precepts. Lord's will is to be edifying and straight to the point as always. So it says Cheryl James, better known Salakia as Salt, from the legendary 90s hip hop duo SALT-N-PEPA, made headlines on Thursday when she spoke out about her experiences with the elite network of occult satanists that control the music and entertainment industries. And, also keep in mind, she's not the first one. OK, you had people like Busy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony. All right. Other rappers and stuff like that. Even what's that guy name from Drink Champs? Nore, if I'm pronouncing his name. All right. Where he did a old video years ago where he talked about there's 3 different doors of success. All right. And you have to choose which door that you want to go through, which will lead you to a certain type of success. All right. So she's not the first one to tap into these things. All right. Of what's going out. It's just the fact that, according to biblical prophecy, these things must come out. OK, Esau is being made bare. OK, his secret things are being discovered. Right. It says SALT revealed that a secretive elite group runs both the government and the music industry, engaging in dark rituals that include the grooming, torture, abuse, and sacrificial unaliving of children. And she went further, revealing that child meat serves as a key sacrament in these depraved practices. And, that's what they, do. The scriptures even touch on it about how Esau takes practice in unaliving children through their rituals. All right. And to prove that, we're going to go to the GNT. This is the Bible Gateway app. All right. And I'm going to go to the Apocrypha. We're going to get Wisdom of Solomon. And it's going to be in the 14th chapter. And we're going to show you. All right. We're going to come all the way down to the results of idolatry, because everything that the Edomites do in this current system that they're currently ruling over, it goes back to the ancient practices of the Canaanites. OK. And this is just to get straight to the point. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, verse 22 on down in the GNT. It says, one thing led to another. It was not enough to be wrong about the knowledge of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. They lived in a state of evil warfare. All right. And this is speaking about the Edomites, because when you get First Maccabees, the first chapter, it tells you that when Alexander the Great came into power, after his death, his 4 generals took over. What happened? All right, let's get that precept first before we continue to read. This is First Maccabees, chapter 1. All right, and straight to the point. I'm gonna start at verse 7. It says, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule, every one in his place. And here's the point, verse 8. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them. Many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay, because the wicked one, as the scripture says, Job 9:24, the earth was given into the hands of the wicked. All right. So if the wicked beareth rule, okay, the only thing is evils can multiply. And I believe also, let me see if I can remember it. Let me see. There's a scripture where it talks about evil men, or let me see. Let me see if I can find that. I might have to Google it. Salakia. Cannot spell today. Salakia. Let me see. Yeah, that's it. Proverbs 29:16. All right, let's get that. Proverbs 29:16. Yep, here it is right here. It says, when the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall see their fall. Okay, so the main point is when the wicked multiply, transgression increaseth. Okay, and going back to First Maccabees 1:8, all right, it clearly tells you that, you know, when his servants, starting with his 4 generals, when they took after, his, rule of his passing, and their sons took over after them, okay, evils began to multiply within the planet Earth, okay, because this is when the earth was given into the hands of the wicked, pursuant to Job 9:24. All right. So now when we come back over here to Wisdom of Solomon 14, all right, I'm going to read it again from the top, verse 22 in the GNT. It says, one thing led to another. It was not enough to be wrong about the knowledge of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. They lived in a state of evil warfare. All right, now you understand what that means. But they were so ignorant that they called it peace. They murdered children in their initiation rituals. So everything that she stated, this is backed up in the scriptures. You see that? They murdered children in their initiation rituals, celebrated secret mysteries. Okay, that's why they have their things such as the, Masonic lodges and whatnot. Okay, Illuminati and stuff like that. It says, and held wild ceremonial orgies with unnatural practices. And they showed you that in a movie called Eyes Wide Shut that Stanley Kubrick produced or directed, I should say, played by key actors known as Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. All right. It says they no longer kept their lives or their marriages pure. OK, a man might unalive another by an act of treachery or cause him grief by committing adultery with his wife. And everything was a complete riot of bloody murder, robbery, deceit, corruption, faithfulness, disorder, and falsehood, harassment of innocent people, ingratitude, moral decay, sexual perversion, broken marriages, adultery, and immorality. And this is why it tells you, now let's go back to the blue letter. Let's go to Hebrews 12:16. All right. This is why it says this, Hebrews 12:16, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. Now, when you pick out these words, all right, let's look up fornicator, which you get the Greek word pornos.
Strong's G 4205. Parnas. Parnas.
Okay, so on one hand of the spectrum, it talks about a man who prostitutes his body to another man's or another's lust for hire. But it also means a man who indulges in unlawful sexual intercourse, a fornicator. Okay, And that happened when you see the movie, I think it was called Alexander. Okay. And I think Colin Farrell was the guy who played Alexander, right? Alongside with his mother, that was played by the actress Angelina Jolie. If you brothers don't remember, they showed you that in the movie Alexander, where when he took down, India and Babylon, especially Babylon, when he came into Babylon, he pretty much slept with that man whom he found attractive. Okay. So that's pretty much what we're just going into. All right. But anyway, that's the point. So coming back over here, let's see here. Verse 27, it says the worship of idols whose name shall never be spoken. Okay. Is the beginning and the end, the cause and the result of every evil. Right. Because she said in the interview, we go back. Let me see if I can get it here. Salakia. Let me see if I can bring this up. Let me see. Let me see if they put it in the article. Because if they didn't, it's all good. Nah, they didn't put it in the article. But in the nevertheless, in the video, she said they worship the God of this world, all right, or something to that extent, right? And the scriptures tells us in Ephesians, the 6th chapter, right? For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. All right. Ephesians 6:12. It says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. And those principalities starts with the top banking elite families, the ones who are in power. OK, the rulers of darkness. It says against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And who are the people that sit in the high places? Your top banking elite families, such as the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Gettysburgs, okay, the Bilderbergs, all of them, just to name a few. Okay. So she understands, right? And she ain't, she's been doing this for a long time. All right. And I'm sure back in her heyday, her and the other woman, they had their fair share of rituals or what they probably had to do to stay relevant. You see? So you may ask yourself, well, why is this all coming out now? Why is she, deciding to speak up now? Well, the scriptures tells you, all right, Proverbs 16:1, it says the preparations of the heart and man and the answer of the tongue is from Yahweh, okay? Because the scripture says a man's goings is of the Lord. How then can a man understand his own way? You see? So this is not done by coincidence. The spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, okay, he's the one that caused her to bring these things out, because we are in a time of the man of sin being revealed, the son of perdition. You understand? So let's come back to the article. All right. So then it goes on to say, quote, they own the government, politics, Democrats and Republicans, the court system, the education system, the banks, the Federal Reserve, real estate, farms, Hollywood, what we watch, music, what we listen to, media, what we believe, sports, big pharma, everything, she said, of the cabal. And she's absolutely right. Now, when you understand that and you take that into consideration and you link it back with the scriptures, remember, part of the curses said, well, we was going to do what? Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. And let me see here, right around. All right, let's get to the point. Right around. We'll start at verse 43 on down. All right, now keep in mind, this is dealing with the curses. It says, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him, and he shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. We see that happening today, right? Let's drop down to verse 48. It says, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. So when you have to go to the grocery store, okay, you're pretty much buying that from your enemies who actually control those corporations. When you want to take out a loan from the bank, you have to go to Esau because he controls the banks. You see what I'm saying? When you got to go to the store to buy your clothes. All right. Unless if you have a direct link, you're all right, in a so-called black neighborhood where they actually make it, they got the machines and everything, and you're buying it directly from them. Hey, Salakia, majority of your clothing is coming from China, Taiwan, okay, Pakistan, India, okay, and as far as the material goes, and then it's actually put together, okay, sometimes in the U.S. or it's put together from over there, and in the U.S. they have a trade bargain agreement where they buy the actual clothes and then they resell them within the states. You see? And majority of the time, that's where you're going to buy. That's why people shop at things like Kmart, okay, Costco's, all right, Walmart, right? So that's what time it is. You know what I'm saying? And we have to go to them one of all things because we're under the curses, right? But we're coming upon a time where the scripture says this. Let me see, Isaiah 11. Let me see, or is it Isaiah 10? I always get this one mixed up. Yeah, Isaiah 10. Isaiah 10 and 20, it says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob, okay, shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. Okay. Now let's look up this word because I actually never done this before. I just want to see what it says. Shall no more again stay upon him.
Strong's H8172. Sha'an.
All right. So it says in the outline of biblical usage to lean on, trust in, support. Okay. See, right now, that's what we're doing. Okay. And that goes back to the curses of what we read in Deuteronomy 28 and 48. Okay. We have to lean, okay, on our enemies for one of all things at this current point in time. But we are approaching a time where we're not going to lean or trust in this system. Because remember, she said in the video, she quoted Revelation 13. She said, read it yourself, verses 16 to 18. We're not going to be able to buy or sell. So when that time comes, like Elder Yashawamba from GMS Dallas always says, you're going to have to step out on some unbelievable faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Because we're in that day, we're not going to lean or trust upon him that constantly smote us. And that's talking about Esau, Edom. But look what it says here. It says of trust in the Most High. Why? Because when you go back, it says, but shall stay upon Yahweh, thy Holy One of Israel, in truth. Now, this takes us back to Ephesians, the 6th chapter and the 13th verse. It says, wherefore take unto you the whole armor of Yahweh. And what's the armor? This 100% truth, this wise counsel, the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Okay. This is what we're going to lean upon, because now this also takes us to Isaiah 33 and 6. It says, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability. That's the key. The key word there is stability of thy times, the times that we are in right now. Okay. Jacob's trouble is about to amplify even further. And strength of salvation, the fear of Yahweh is his treasure. Okay. Because the fear of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is the first step to be accepted of him. Okay. You have to understand that. So now let's, and that's the video there. It was on X. All right. Which, and it's spiritual too, because if you notice, look at, I don't want to do that, but if you look, this was posted February 28, 2026 at 1:44 a.m. You see, 1:44 a.m. and that's spiritual. Okay. Call Haloyim Li Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay. 1:44. So like I said, Proverbs 16 and 1, we got to get it again. Okay. The preparations of the heart in man and the answer of the tongue is from Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. You think that that's a coincidence that she decided to just come up and give her testimony at 1:44 a.m.? You can't tell me that's not Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay. See, this had to come out. Right. It says, SALT continued to note that we, the people, pay taxes to fund their operations and buy houses with exorbitant interest rates from them before mimicking the infamous World Economic Forum slogan that the average person will own nothing and be happy. That's also scriptural because the scriptures tells us, let's go back here to the Apocrypha. Let's get the book of Baruch, fourth chapter. No, it's the third chapter. All right. This is Baruch chapter 3, and I'll start at verse 7. It says, and for this cause, thou hast put thy fear in our hearts to the intent that we should call upon thy name and praise thee in our captivity. For we have called to mind all the iniquity of our forefathers that sinned before thee. And that's happening right now. Only the elect is doing that. They're waking up, understanding who we are as a people, understanding why we went off, why we are in the predicament that we're currently in, okay, and acknowledging our wrongdoing, and therefore we are fully repenting and keeping it to the best of our ability, the law, statutes, commandments, via way through faith in Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, right? But here's the point, verse 8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments. You see? According to all the iniquities of our forefathers or our fathers, which departed from the Lord thy power. The key part there is we are subject to payments. So as she says, yes, okay, we have to pay taxes, okay, to fund their operations. It buys houses, exorbitant interest rates from them before mimicking the infamous World Economic Forum slogan that the average person will own nothing and be happy. So, yeah. Showing you that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai has put us in that predicament, okay, until Yahweh Shai comes back and redeems us, okay, fully. All right. But for right now, we have to go through the straight gate on this side. Okay. It says we've been pitted against each other like crazy forever. Black versus white, rich versus poor, men versus women, Democrats versus Republicans, Muslims against Christians. We fight over narratives that they've created to keep us divided, James added. And see, this is where she kind of goes off because, see, the Lord ain't down with a world waking up and coming together in unity. You see what I'm saying? Now, Jake ain't supposed to get caught up in this nonsense about black versus white, Christian versus Christian, even though the scriptures speak about there's going to be a race war. OK, but as an Israelite, you got to understand that there's going to be a separation. There's going to be a divide. Matter of fact, Yahweh Shah said it himself. When you get the book of Matthew, OK, I believe the 10th chapter. Let me see here. Matthew 10. Right. Verse 34 on down, it says, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Right. So you may have a situation, even in your own household or within your family or, family or friends or whatever, where you have different views of life. OK, you may have different religions, different interests or whatever, and it's going to spark a debate. It's going to cause conflict of interest. OK, that's meant to happen. OK, verse 36, and a man's foe should be they of his own household. Let me see what that says in the I want to get that in the Message Bible. Actually, before I get that, let me continue to read this. This is Wisdom of Solomon 14 back here in the GNT, verse 28. It says, people who worship them lose control of themselves in ecstasy or pass off lies as prophecies or live wickedly or break their word without hesitation. And that's Esau all day. It says they tell lies under oath and expect no punishment. That goes back to what? That goes back to Psalms. Let me get that real quick. All right. Expect no punishment, right? Let me get that. Psalms, what's that? 73. Psalm 73 and 5, it says, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. You see that? See, the scriptures don't lie, man. Everything you want to know, everything you need to sustain you here on the earth is found in the Bible. You see? So, yeah, it says they tell lies under oath and expect no punishment because the idols they put their trust in are lifeless. All right. But punishment will finally catch up with them for two reasons. First, they were in error about Yahweh Bashim Yahushua when they worshipped idols. And second, they had so little regard for holiness that they made false statements to deceive people. And that's what's going on today. This is the same reason why she's saying what she's saying. Right? This is the main reason why she's saying what she's saying. Now, let me get that in a GNT, that Matthew real quick. All right, Matthew 10. 34. Just want to see what it says. It says, do not think that I am come to bring peace to the world. No, I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. I came to set sons against their fathers, daughters against their mothers, daughters-in-law against their mother-in-law. Your worst enemies will be the members of your own family. You see that? And Jake, they come into the truth. They think it's supposed to be all, love and the brotherhood and stuff, which don't get it twisted. Yeah. Okay. You experience the brotherhood, this, that, and third, but you're going to go through some shit, man. You're going to be tested, right? Now, let me get that in the Message Bible. Let's go back to, I just want to see what it says real quick. Okay, this is the same scripture, Matthew 10:34, and the Message Bible says, don't think I've come to make life cozy. Okay, I've come to make a sharp knife cut between son and father, daughter and mother, bride and mother-in-law, cut through these cozy domestic arrangements and free you for the Most High. Well-meaning family members can be your worst enemies. If you prefer father or mother over me, you don't deserve me. If you prefer son or daughter over me, you don't deserve me. That's plain as day. It says, if you don't go all the way with me through thick and thin, meaning if you don't pick up your cross, okay, if you don't go through the trials, the adversity which is set within your lot to go through to try you, right? It says you don't deserve me. If your first concern is to look after yourself, you'll never find yourself. But if you forget about yourself and look to me, you'll find both yourself and me. And that's what it's about. Okay, so we got that. It says, meanwhile, she pointed out the Satanists are hunting, killing, sexually assaulting, sacrificing, torturing, cannibalizing, and organ harvesting our children, grooming them, over sexualizing them, teaching them inappropriate things in school. Okay, and yeah, that's all. This is all coming out. All right. It says they start wars and they tell us it's this country or that country or it's this religion who's our enemy, and our kids go to war to defend lives. They fund both sides of the war and make billions of dollars while our family members are sacrificed. Yeah, and they ain't just waking up. But let me just end it here, get to the point. It says, James explained the elites are ushering in a new world order and one world government, one currency, one world dictatorship where we all have no rights at all. All right. And it's good that she brought this out because the prophet's been telling you, beginning with the apostles on down. She encouraged people to refuse digital ID, which we know that's going to lead to the what? The MOTB, which is the RFID microchip. Right. It says support smaller venues, spread and share information, which, look, yeah, there's nothing wrong with supporting in terms of, go down and you may, because the apostles on down, they're advocates for getting your health right. OK, doing what you're supposed to be doing to better your health. So that may be that you go down to your if you can afford it. All right. Your local farmer. OK, buying your vegetables and stuff organically and stuff like that. We know those things cost. All right. But, that's on one end of the spectrum. Yes, look after your health. OK, but also, you should be praying and fast unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay. It says, spread and share information, homeschool our children, and support local farmers. Warning of the mark of the beast system detailed in the book of Revelation. And she's absolutely correct. All right. Even the scriptures tells you in Psalms, the same book, 94 or 96. Hold on. Let me check this out real quick. Yeah, Psalms 94:16. It says, who will rise up for me against the evildoers, or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Because to stand up against the workers of iniquity, to stand up against the evildoers, you got to sound an alarm. You got to blow the trumpet. And then the only ones who's doing that is the prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. The true prophets, that is. Okay. The ones that go, as it says in Isaiah 34, to the law and to the testimony, they're the ones that are currently speaking what's written. They have the true light of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. We're talking about those men. You see? But ain't too many people out here who are rising up against the evildoers, who are rising up against the workers of iniquity. You see? The scriptures tells it to warn my people. Okay? Let's get that in Isaiah 58. And 1, cry aloud, spare not. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet and show my people their transgression, in the house of Jacob their sins. You see? But we also have to warn about the things that are coming. All right. So she's right. Okay. And we'll end it off with this. Revelation 13:16, it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark or a charagma in their right hand or their foreheads. Right. We know that's going into an incision being made within you to act as a badge of servitude, because you're serving the beast. OK, by taking part in his system, by connecting yourself, by taking that chip. Verse 17, which she mentioned in the video, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. OK, which proves that it's going to be physical, because without you taking it, you're not going to be able to make any sort of transactions within this society. Lastly, verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and the number is 666, which when you break it down, chi side stigma, when you go into the word stigma, it means to stick or prick. OK, to be branded. That's how that also lets her know that this is physical. Now, remember, she mentioned to encourage people to refuse it, the digital ID, which we know eventually that ID is going to be tagged to you taking that microchip, because the scriptures tells you, right? When we go to the next chapter, Revelation 14:9, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in their forehead or in their hand, what's going to happen? The same shall drink of the wine of wrath of power, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstones in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. All right. So just like she said, just like the men of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, beginning with the apostles on down, have been saying, mainly from Great Millstone, okay, and a like-minded man that is teaching the likewise sound doctrine, like we all been telling you, if you take it, that's your ass. This is what's coming. You're going to be destroyed. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to leave it off from there. All right, and I pray that this lesson was edifying, as always, straight to the point. Okay, and, you know, like I said, she ain't the only artist, or rapper that's coming out saying this stuff, man. And again, this ain't nothing new. Okay, she ain't saying nothing than what the prophets have been saying. All right, but hey, like I said, okay, it's this has got to be spiritual for her to post this again at 1:44 a.m. All right, for this message to come out, man. And then it's going into everything that we see that's being made manifest. Okay. And you know what? Let's end it on that precept. Luke 12:2. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. And with that, shalom.